both teams, and Fnatic even more so, they understand their power spikes. This is one of the games where in the early game, Fnatic knew we have a problem early on. If we can get the Immortal, we can drag it out easily, but it was actually Tricked that picked it up. So with that, Tricked could do way too much, and Fnatic couldn't handle in the early game all the pressure. They needed Malthael's ult, they needed the Curse Bullet, they needed the Taunt. And once they picked up level 10, that's really when they were starting to drive the agenda.
It's terrifying.
But Tricked was actually in a position where they understood that too, and they said, we need early on to really snowball, and they got the keep. The problem is that later on they weren't able to win the second Immortal. If they win another one, they have a lot more wriggle room on the map and can get further ahead. But Fnatic, they understood where their power spike was. Once they hit it, they started to engage, and that was great play.
Yeah, it seriously stresses how important you have to understand what your draft can do and what you can pull off as a team. And the thing is for the most part, Tricked was in a great spot. They were ahead. They had to keep taking down the bottom left. There was one slight misstep where they were fighting near an Immortal. We had Breeze move in, grab the Arthas right on top of the Immortal stun, and that was the fight over in Fnatic's eyes. They moved in, got the engage, and completely burned through. You mentioned that level 7 for Malthael, absolutely devastating, and it seemed like from there was no way that Tricked could even start to come back.
One of the reasons why Tricked later on tried this flank at the Immortal and didn't try to simply defend their keep might look a bit awkward, but one of the thought process here was really that, first of all, they were trying to play around cooldowns.
Yeah.
They were saying, once that Malthael has the Touch of Death and his ult up again, the next fight is going to look the same. Our tanks are going to have massive problems. Oriel won't be able to keep anyone alive. So what we have to do is force a fight a bit earlier, and ideally making sure that it's not a linear fight that Arthas comes in from behind. The problem they had is that Vala got picked just so fast.
Yeah.
So they went in a little bit too early. It was not perfectly coordinated, and even with the Aegis, Oriel couldn't save the target. So once Vala falls, you are in trouble and you lose everyone. But the thought process that they had, I actually like it. They knew they had to fight the fight early, just before the ults come back online, just before Malthael has his cooldowns ready. They did that, but then again, they just miscoordinated a little bit, and Fnatic was just too good.
I mean, we're talking hair timings when it comes to that engage. If Arthas was 2 seconds earlier, he may actually get on that back line, and then you suddenly have Vala with the full strafe going off. Perhaps the actual engage with the taunt comes off on the Arthas instead. He's able to live through with the Aegis coming out, and they can win that team fight and clean up the Immortal. But you can just see the difference between these two teams. 1 to 2 seconds, the difference between a team fight completely won or lost. Now let's go ahead and talk about Battleground number 2, as it's time to continue moving forward through this best-of-5 series. We're going to Infernal Shrines, which is one of Tricked's, I believe, second favorite battlegrounds to go to. They go here pretty often.
Yeah, so the hero that I look to when we are seeing, again, Infernal Shrines is once more D.Va. I want to see, first of all, if Tricked is prioritizing her high enough to take her before the second ban phase. And if that's not the case, it's going to be interesting to see if Fnatic is just saying, we are going to ban her out again, as we did on the first map.
So Malthael strong on this battleground as well, but you start to think about Sonya, Dahaka to a degree. It's actually interesting with Malthael coming into the rotations. Dahaka's gone further and further down, but you still can't ignore the global presence, the annoying global presence that he can bring to a battlefield as he'll be strong. Thank you, I got
like
it, man. Get the segues coming in there, Caleris-like. So yeah, he's great on this battleground. There's always the Tychus mixed up with Odin. Gul'dan's fallen off a lot because of Genji in the rotations, but we have so many of these heroes now that just come down to controlling the shrines.
Yeah, and on this map in particular, we have seen Malthael, I believe, once on this map, and he looked extremely strong because he thrives in big team fights, in 5 versus 5s. And especially towards the later stage of the game, you need to commit to the Punisher. Early on, you can actually let it go. First one, second one, if you have a very mobile team, you can say, let's just go onto the lanes and have a split here, take a few of the towers down, and by that you will get a lead in experience that the Punisher of the opponent's team is just going to be able to negate. So Malthael here, I would expect either a ban or an early pick, because I think if you don't punish in the early game, Malthael is going to thrive once that he is popping off in the team fights.
Yeah, and it also comes down to the draft in the early phase. Are you strong on the Shrine without your heroics? If not, we've seen a lot of teams actually just ignore the first Shrine phase if it's not an Arcane Punisher in particular, and just go for pushes, get experience leads. So we'll see how our teams move forward with the draft, as it is now time to start drafting. The first pick, first ban here will be going over to Fnatic.
So, I'm curious to see how this is going to work out for Fnatic now. Early on, I would assume that they are banning out one of the classics here. We could see the ban on Uther, for example, unless they want to pick him up. Question is, how highly do they value Malthael here? Would that be something that they would even consider as a first pick here? Malthael hasn't gotten to that priority yet, but it could happen. They're currently thinking, still going into the Abathur. It's not your typical Abathur map. We have seen him on the map. He is played here. But it's not as dominant as he is on Towers of Doom and Cursed Hollow, for example.
Yeah, he can bring some decent areas where you can kind of dive forward. If you get a Sonya in particular, it becomes much more effective on this battleground, but Abathur will be banned out. Something I'm also keeping an eye out for when it comes to Fnatic, that Diablo in the mix. It's getting to a point where Breeze's Diablo is actually getting banned on this battleground in the second rotation. Fnatic wondering if they're starting to realize that. See if they pick him up early, because Breeze, when he has Diablo, they seem to get pick after pick after pick. And
Medivh banned out as well would deny a possible combo with Diablo. So we know that Shrimpy, of course, on the hero can be quite strong. But if you start with a Medivh and then have the option of even adding a Diablo to the mix, then you are in a really good position. So Trick just respecting Shrimpy's Medivh enough and saying the threat of a combo is too much, so let's get that out of the way. I like it. Fnatic reacts as you would expect, the Uther as a first pick. He's currently the only hero that we have in HGC Europe that has a 100% involvement rate in all the drafts. Second in the standings is Anubarak, but we have seen games where he was neither picked nor banned. Tricked on the other hand, again, Vala Oriel, they are holding strong with a hyper carry strategy.
There it is. And I think actually yesterday we missed Uther and Anubarak not being in a North America draft. So for Europe, I think the 100% is still there. But
oh, we had Uther already on the first day in North America not being picked and banned.
Crazy,
that was,
man.
My jaw dropped. I looked at the screen and I was just like, have you watched the mid-season brawl? So yeah, that was interesting. But I saw the game yesterday.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. Well, Uther has been picked up, so Fnatic has their strong foundation for what they want to move into. Typically on this battleground, they lean a little bit more towards that Greymane than the Genji. They want to be able to bring out those cocktails, burn down the Shrine phase. We talk about every time the cocktail build just gives you so much poke, very efficient for clearing out the Shrines. Falls off a little bit against the Vala Oriel composition. One cocktail comes out, and you just have a hope that jumps in when the multi-shot gets fitted out for the Vala, but can still be a solid pickup to set up that early fight and move into an engage.
I'm interested in the priority on Malthael. Right now, we have Dehaka taken for Fnatic, so that makes Malthael for them all of a sudden way less likely, since usually he fills a similar role to what Dehaka does, meaning he is the solo laner and he is also the second melee. I would not really expect them to head into Malthael plus an additional tank here. Haven't seen that yet. Trick could still pick him up. Not 100% sure how much they value him right now. But that makes me curious about the ban that Trick is going to go for. You've been talking about Diablo earlier. I could see them just saying we're banning out Breeze.
Diablo and Dehaka great together, especially with the Uther being in the mix-up, and then Greymane gets a full and engage. Like, when a Diablo gets his charge and puts someone against a wall and Greymane goes in, pretty much every single roster hero in the Heroes of Storm roster is going to be burned out. Genji is going to be the ban for a Trick Esport instead, though.
I don't mind that either. I think Diablo would have been a good ban for them. They've been thinking about what they want to get rid of, but Genji had a huge impact on the last game, so that's fine. Fnatic looking at the Arthurs makes a lot of sense, since Trick is prioritizing Arthurs probably way higher than any other European team that we have. He's much more popular at this point in North America, where Arthurs is playing a huge role. But for Europe, we see him, but not quite to that extent yet. Tricked, on the other hand, is one of the teams that really loves playing him, and on this map he shines. So I wouldn't mind the ban here. The only other ban that I could have really seen is, I was curious if maybe Fnatic looks at a ban on Malthael, since, as I said, I don't expect them now to pick him. They focus on their globals again, but I also do not know how highly Tricked is actually prioritizing him.
Yeah, that's the question for me. Trick Esport, I can see them move into an Arthas and a Sonya combination, with maybe another healer later on down the road. So getting rid of the Arthas is a good pickup for Fnatic, just a safe pick against what Trick Esports normally runs. You're correct. When it comes to Arthas, Trick Esport and Dignitas are the two that you're probably going to see the Arthas put in pretty often. So now with the Arthas being gone here, see what Trick will go into. I love Sonya mixed in with an Oriel, especially on this map in particular. It seems almost impossible to take her out there with the heals consistently coming in.
Sonya, you could even go, if you want to play the double support, Tacita is open, as we see. So you can go Tacita. but you could even go into, let's say, a Rhaegar plus the Oriel, get the Sonya and another tank, have a Lightning Shield on the Sonya on top of it, and the panic button with the Aegis plus also the Ancestral.
Unkillable.
That would definitely work, so it makes it really rough. Another hero again is the Malthael, but I have to repeat it. I do not know how highly Tricked prioritizes him, and I actually think that at this point it's not a big part of that draft yet. So they go into the Rhaegar, as I just said. I would like the Sonya with it as well. I think if you now have both of these, having a double frontline that can go deep is great. But they go for the D.Va first of all, so they pick Alex Hero. It's safe to do that too, since Fnatic is very unlikely to go now into a main tank plus a Malthael or the Sonya.
Yeah, I do think in esport, the Sonya comes off the board for them with that D.Va pick. D.Va and Sonya together just doesn't give you that straight, strong, durable tank that you want in that front line. See what Fnatic's going to pick up now, though. Will it be the Diablo we were talking about earlier? Get those fights to really pop out. D.Va can be a bit disruptive with Diablo, but still manageable. Still get the fights that you would like, especially when you get the pick up on the talent where you're able to throw people twice.
Now, the thing is, if Fnatic picks Diablo, I would prefer... Okay, so they go into Anubarak plus Falstad. I would prefer the Malthael way over a Sonya if Diablo is picked, which is not the case, since it is just the percentage damage here. But Anubarak is taken. Very late pick, and you can see how Anubarak is starting to fall off a bit. But we have an Illidan instead. Okay, that works, of course, too. Very similar to... In terms of trying to keep him alive, very similar to the Sonya here. Sonya has more Shrine presence and more clear there. But Illidan is, of course, really strong, as we've just seen yesterday when TGG was playing, also when they played against Dignitas, for example. And if you have the double support, then he is super easy to keep alive, especially with this. You have a Lightning Shield on him, later on you have the Earthen Shield on level 13, and you have on top of that the Ancestral. Actually thinking, could they go into Bloodlust? I guess they could if they really wanted to. I am much more of a fan of the Ancestral with Illidan, since it's much easier to keep him alive. But they have the auto attackers that would, in theory, allow them to go into a Bloodlust. Problem then again is you are up against the Falstad, so once he sees the Bloodlust, he just gusts and you just wasted a cooldown. And
I also like the Illidan more instead of the D.Va and Sonya. I feel like there's both a little bit less durable than you would like, and they have a hard time on that front line. But Illidan could jump in, cause a lot of chaos, and if Dahaka misses out on the tongue, or essentially the isolation. We're seeing a lot more isolations against Illidan. D.Va could just charge in and set up that fight. Let's go ahead and go into game number 2. It's Infernal Shrines, our two teams facing off here. Can Tricked Esports tie it up, or are we going to have Fnatic continue to move forward?
Game number 2, everybody. Fnatic is going up against Tricked, and they are in the lead. The Swedes to the left in blue with Breeze on Anubarak, Quacknix on the Bird, we have Vubi on Dehaka, Smexy on Uther, and Shrimpy this time on Greymane.
On the right side, in the red, Crosby on Vala, Make on Rhaegar, Rimmer playing Illidan. We're going to have Alex the Proji back on D.Va, and Nape will be playing Arya.
So we have, once again, for Quacknix, we have him with the Season Marksman as a level 1. You know, we talked a lot about his level 13, when he oftentimes, even with an auto-attack build, goes into the Airy Gust. I have seen him in a lot of games just switching more and more into the Giant Killer, so I'm really curious to see what's the choice going to be once he hits that level, since he's really playing just simply with both, depending on how he feels. But he's definitely started to make a bigger switch with an auto-attack build into Giant Killer. Question, of course, still remains, does that frontline that we're seeing for Tricked at this point really make that necessary? But in terms of talents, outside of the Season Marksman, we're also having for Rhaegar the Wolf Run taken, so a bit of additional speed here.
Wolf Run, helpful there if you want to be able to get close to your teammates to chase up with that Illidan, but also be on a spot where you can juke out the Dahaka tongue, also that Uther stun. So allows Rhaegar to be effective and move forward with that Illidan. Speaking of Illidan, top lane taking some major harassment. Smexy will come over for a heal for Wubby, but Quacknix is starting to control this top lane as he'll be able to start moving forward with Smexy on the side.
We have still the rotation here between the mid and the bot lane for Tricked. The top lane pressure is quite annoying for Illidan. It's really annoying for him to deal with it, but Rhaegar is helping out, so that helps a lot. But you can tell that Remabola is starting to struggle here slightly. If Illidan goes up against Falstad alone, it's absolutely not an issue for him. But once that we put Uther into the mix, you not only have the heals, but you have all of a sudden the stun against Illidan, which gives Falstad the opportunity to put some free damage on him.
Yeah, because you can't go in for the harassment and trade out. Speaking of trade outs, there's going to be no trade for Tricked Esport as Fnatic gets aggressive. Breeze comes in with the Burrow charge, and Greymane helping out will secure the kill on Vala.
It just shows one of the beautiful things if you are able to have good communication with your teammates. It's just fantastic what a good gank can do. That was very well coordinated here. Breeze starting in, getting the first stun, and we have, of course, the Haka with a Tong. And just syncing all these abilities up, this is one of the most beautiful things in Heroes of the Storm. When you have a well-coordinated team just showing off how well they can coordinate all these abilities.
Teamwork, man. Such an awesome thing to sit here in awe and just enjoy it. Fnatic will be able to push in the top lane as they're going to go ahead and forfeit this shrine on the bottom. Talking about that in the draft and how your team can really move forward with those type of decisions. With an Illidan and a D.Va on the shrine phase, it can do pretty well with the multi-shot build coming online for Vala for clearing it out. So they decided to go ahead and just grab experience elsewhere. And you can see the results. Look at the top.
Yeah,
5.25 to almost 5.
I actually still like what we're seeing for Trick, because let's not forget they are getting the Punisher at the same time. So they might be in a position where they lose the fort, but they should actually get a lot out of the bottom push as well. I would even have liked them to... Okay, they focus into the middle towers now, first of all. Rema is still the one who takes care of the Punisher, but they have taken out 2 of the lanes already, or 2 of the walls, and now with the Punisher, they should be able to get the fort at the bot lane.
Wow, Alex Brogy moves up there with D.Va and is able to slow down the fort being grabbed overall. With the double global, they'll beat him over Fnatic. They're able to rotate down to the middle here and the bottom and look for a fight. Crosby, though, having no fear with Nape on the backline and Make2 with these heals. He steps forward, and they're going to get the fort. Look at that. You're right. They get the better exchange. Yeah,
I like it a lot for how they approached it. So Trick didn't panic when they saw it. And that is one of the biggest things. If you panic, you are in trouble. But now, all of a sudden, Fnatic is the one who is suffering here. They might hit the earlier level 7 because they have Greymane at the top still adding value. But if you look at the structural perspective, then we are having Fnatic in not really a bad spot, but they are definitely quite a bit behind.
Slightly behind, as Esport will keep moving forward. They head to the middle lane to break open those walls too. Quite nice will be here to defend. But things will get better for Fnatic at 10. I mean, you always have the power of Cocoon, Mighty Gus as well. You have Uther and being able to bring out, I'm assuming, a Divine Shield here to set up his team. Greymane is back forward to be alright, but Tricked Esport, their early game in these last 2 games has been really something that they've been working on.
Yeah, I like what Tricked is doing here. So Fnatic, of course, still the favorite. They are one of the best teams that we have, if not the best right now, and their coordination is fantastic. But we have Tricked trying to give them a run for their money here. Nappe in trouble, but Whoopi also falling low, and so is Schwimpy. Greymane is going to die, and that's the kill. Tricked takes the first one, and they are aiming for number 2 as Whoopi finds himself still very far out. Illidan jumps in, eager to finish him off, and he does.
Look at that. Tricked Esport with 3 kills to 1. All people nice and healthy. They're going to group up in the middle and start breaking down that well at the very least, and even getting damage on the fort if possible. Alex Brogy and crew looking to put up a fight against Fnatic. Meanwhile, Falstad will rotate to the bottom. Can't really defend this middle lane too much, so you might as well get experience. But that fort, it's actually going to die.
Yeah, fort is going to fall. Trick is playing this really well. Also, take note of Uther holding back his level 7 talent. It's a bit old school here, waiting for Illidan to show if he wants to go for Metamorphosis or Hunt, so he can decide if he wants to go into Cleanse or not. This is one of the things that we have seen even in Alpha. Back when Tyrael with Judgment was a big part of the meta, most of the support players would hold back their level 7 until the opponent hits their level 10, and then you need to make a choice. Do I need my Cleanse or do I not? And this is something that we see from Smexy now at this point too.
Remember, we're starting the top lane nice and procs here to push in with the Mercenaries on the right side with 9.5 experience to 9. Tricked Esport has a decision to make here. Do we fight over the shrine, or do we try to soak to level 10? And they've decided to go ahead and grab the Punisher in the middle. Illidan will start it, while Fnatic goes with the latter of the options. So they grab the top lane and the bottom with Dahaka, soaking both lanes. And if they hit 10, they can go for an engage. But Fnatic might not have the chance as Trick comes in for a rotation. Can they get Wubby? Yes, they do. And Tricked Esport is just running with this game right now. Yeah, they're doing well, but let's not forget that Fnatic is also still on the same level in experience. So Hunt has been taken, talents have been chosen here, and now Smexy needs to soon make his choice. He's still waiting for it. We're having also the Cocoon taken. We see at the same time the Mighty Gust. And the only player to not choose a talent just yet is the D.Va. But as we have Hunt taken, you can see that Smexy checked the talents, sees Hunt and says, okay, I need my cleanse, I need to cleanse out the stun, and then go straight into the Divine Shield. Tricked Esport will grab the Punisher in the middle. With Fnatic slightly ahead in experience because he killed the fort in the bottom. They're going to be okay here, but defense needs to be important. In all honesty, major push for Tricked Esports may be a bit difficult unless you get the pick, but Bala for sure gets on the outskirts and pokes him here. Thing is, the Schwimpy, his clear is going to be very solid here to be able to clear out those minions and also work on that giant.
We have Fnatic just showing off their globals once again. It's what they love to do. Fnatic has taken a lot of value from the side soak, which is the only reason why they're still even in experience. It is actually really impressive that they are still on the same level as Tricked, considering how many of these Punishers went over to the red team and how well Tricked played in those fights. But Fnatic is using the Dehaka and the Falstad. This just is a lot of game intelligence, and this is one of the things that we oftentimes do not see in badly coordinated teams. You need to look at your composition and you need to understand what is my strength. How do I play around it? I have 2 globals, but I get wrecked in the team fights. I can play patient a little bit. But now we're having the fight, being forced by Tricked.
Bunny Hop will be used as well, and Fnatic, with that cleanse coming out instantly, will be able to walk away from the fight. Tricked Esports is now getting dragged into a fight. Something took a while for Alex Proji. No, he misses out on it. Might not have had it available. It looks very close, though. Quacknix on the right side is working out the damage, but with Strafe being used, Tricked come in and they use 3 of their heroics. With the Mighty Gus being used, though, Fnatic at least gets their disengage off.
Now, the Gus was a bit surprising to me. I don't think that was needed there. They might have just been afraid of Illidan making a move once again. But for now, we have both teams on level 12, Fnatic even a little bit ahead. But it comes down to the structural advantage that we see for Tricked. It's a small one at this point, since Fnatic has done well with Dehaka and Falstad. But this is really what we have to watch out for in the game now. So, yeah, let's see if Tricked can follow through. Keep in mind, Fnatic, all they need is one good team fight, and they can start to completely snowball this.
See if they can get it here, as they're hoping to stay ahead and experienced. Pretty close against Tricked Esport, and Tricked has actually started to slow down their aggression. They started to peel Illidan off, and that's fair there. With that hunt being available, you want to be able to make sure that he can float into the fight. The goal for both of our teams now, get 13 before the next shrine activates so you can be at a talent advantage. Alex Aproji charges forward, sees Smexy, decides to pull away there as Crosby wasn't close enough to fight.
Shrine is activating in 3 seconds. Illidan was at the top lane, pushing it out, making sure that if Fnatic rotates a global top, they won't pressure the keep just yet. He can always hunt in, and he will soon. 13 talent is ready. That's a big boost also for safety for Illidan, thanks to the Earth and Shield on Rhaegar.